Using word warm-ups to develop mastery and automaticity in decoding. As educators, we all want our students to become proficient readers. We know that students need to develop phonemic awareness, master phonics skills, and decode words with automaticity. And we all have students who need additional support to improve these skills so they can become better readers. Today we want to give you an overview of word warm-ups, a mostly independent phonics-based curriculum for students who need more support as they develop these skills. Here's our agenda. We'll start by introducing the program. Next, we'll do a quick overview of the components of the program. Then we'll walk through the steps and a sample lesson exercise from each of the 3 levels. And finally, we'll highlight how to use the placement assessments to differentiate instruction and how to use word warm-ups alongside Read Naturally Live or Read Naturally Encore. We know that students struggle to become fluent readers for a variety of reasons. Some students have weak phonemic awareness or phonics skills. Some students are forced to slow down to decode unfamiliar words. They hesitate because they have not developed automaticity in decoding. And just think of all of the students you have worked with who struggle to decode multisyllabic words because they don't have a strategy. Students who cannot decode words with automaticity are not fluent readers. So Read Naturally develop word warm-ups to support these struggling readers. The 3 levels of word warm-ups cover decoding skills taught in 1st through 4th grade, but it can be used as an intervention for students in 1st through 8th grade who need to master decoding one-syllable words all the way to multisyllabic words. Let's take a minute to talk about why the ability to decode words is so valuable. Decodable words can be sounded out because they have regular spelling patterns. Have you ever thought about what percentage of English words are decodable? Well, actually, the spelling of words in English is more regular than you might think. About 50% have regular spelling patterns. That means each sound in a word matches the letter or letters that represent the sound, like in these examples, black, hot, and plain. Another 37% of English words have only one error if you try to decode them. Typically, that error occurs in decoding a vowel sound. For example, the word temperature is almost decodable. A student just needs to learn that the vowel A in the 3rd syllable in temperature says the schwa sound, Research clearly shows the value of phonics instruction. This makes sense, doesn't it, when you realize that 50% of English words are decodable because they have regular spelling patterns, and another 37% are very close. The remaining 13% must be learned by memory as irregular words, like the word ocean. Most phonics programs teach students to decode accurately, but learning phonics does not guarantee that students are able to decode words automatically. Why is automaticity important? From research, we know that in order to become fluent readers, students need to learn to decode unknown words accurately and automatically. Students who use all of their mental energy to sound out the words are not able to focus on the meaning of what they are reading, and often the result is poor comprehension. In fact, research findings show that students who have not developed automaticity by the beginning of 2nd grade are at risk for reading failure. Word warm-ups combines teacher modeling, repeated reading, and progress monitoring, the same strategy used in Read Naturally, to teach and reinforce phonics skills and syllable patterns, so students can become more proficient at decoding unfamiliar words. Word Warm-Ups is a quick, timed, mostly independent program that provides systematic instruction in the most common phonics and syllable patterns, using audio-supported instruction with reproducible print exercises. Now let's take a look at the structure of the program and the different types of exercises. Students work mostly independently. Once students are trained in the word warm-up steps, the teacher only needs to be available for one step, the hot timing. A teacher-to-student ratio of 1 to 6 allows the teacher to meet with individual students when they are ready for the hot timing. Students are individually placed, and every student works at his or her own level. So word warm-ups is designed to provide targeted, differentiated instruction for each student. In an RTI model, word warm-ups is used for independent practice for developing readers served in Tier 1. Many teachers assign it as a 10-minute daily warm-up before working in Read Naturally Live or Read Naturally Encore. And word warm-ups is also used as a daily 20 to 30-minute intervention for students served in Tiers 2 and 3. There are 3 word warm-ups levels. Each level is organized into sections. Each section has a specific focus. Take a look at page 4 in your handout to see the skills taught in each level. Notice how the program is carefully sequenced to follow a continuum of phonics skills. Level 1 briefly reviews letter names and sounds and then goes on to teach early phonics skills using one-syllable words. These skills correlate with phonics curriculum typically taught in first and early second grade. Level 2 begins with a quick review of the early phonics skills using compound words, and then it goes on to teach two-syllable word patterns and simple prefixes and suffixes. These skills correlate with decoding skills typically taught in second and early third grade. And Level 3 teaches multisyllabic word patterns. Students learn to pronounce all common prefixes and suffixes, and they learn a strategy for decoding open and closed syllables. Multisyllabic words with Latin and Greek roots are included for decoding practice. These advanced decoding skills are typically taught beginning in third grade. This slide shows the materials for Word Warm-Ups 2. Each level includes a teacher's manual, the student assessment booklet, a STEPS poster, multiple copies of the audio CDs, a starter set of exercises with a storage box for organizing materials, and reproducible masters to replenish materials. Each student will need a CD player, headphones, and a 1-minute timer. After a student is placed in Word Warm-Ups, the teacher builds packets of printed exercises to meet the student's individual needs. The teacher uses the lesson plan in the teacher's manual to introduce students to Word Warm-Ups and walk through the steps. Each level is broken into sections to address specific skills, and there are 5 types of student exercises in each section. Let's look at some examples from Level 1. Each section starts with an introduction exercise. The audio lesson emphasizes phonemic awareness by directing the student to listen for the phonics or syllable patterns featured in the section and then to read the sample words. There are 3 to 7 lesson exercises in each section. These exercises are structured to help the student master a specific phonics or syllable pattern by directly teaching the pattern, modeling how to pronounce words with the pattern, and providing a system for the student to practice reading many words with the pattern to build automaticity. The lesson exercises are followed by a review exercise. The student reviews selected words that contain the phonics or syllable patterns taught in the current section. Each section also has a story exercise. The student reads many words with the featured phonics or syllable pattern in context in a nonfiction story. And each section ends with a challenge exercise. The student must apply the skills learned so far by reading a list of new words with the phonics and syllable patterns taught in the current section and from previous sections in the level. Now let's walk through the steps a student must complete for each lesson exercise. Turn to page 8 of your handout to view the steps of the program on the Word Warm-Ups STEPS poster. The introduction exercise at the top of page 9 in your handout introduces the student to examples of the less common sounds of consonants the student will learn in this section. Look at the lesson exercise at the bottom of page 9, the first lesson exercise in this section, words with the consonant C saying S. Look closely at the words in the table. What do you notice about the words in the columns? Well, whenever possible, the words going down the columns are organized as word families, or they're grouped together because of a similar pattern. Now look at the words going across the rows. What do you notice? When reading across the rows, the student does not have the benefit of word families or similar features, and she is really having to look more carefully to examine each word as she moves from column to column across the rows. And of course, this is more challenging. Let's follow Rosa through all of the steps. She begins by looking at the sample words and illustrations and listening to the audio lesson, which describes the featured pattern. She pronounces the sample words along with the audio. Look at the sample words at the top and the words in the table as I play a portion of the audio.
Green exercise 26. Words with the consonant C saying S. Look at the word scent. Scent begins with the consonant C. The C is followed by the vowel E. So the C says S. Listen for the S sound and notice the E in this word as you quietly read it with me. Ready? Scent. Look at the word city. City begins with the consonant C. The C is followed by the vowel I. So the C says S. Listen for the S sound and notice the I in this word as you quietly read it with me. Ready? City. Look at the word symbol. Symbol begins with the consonant C. The C is followed by a Y. Y is a vowel in this word. So the C says S. Listen for the S sound and notice the Y in this word as you quietly read it with me. Ready? Symbol. Look at the words in the table. The words follow a pattern. Each word has the consonant C. The C is followed by the vowel E, I, or Y. So in each word, the C says S. Read across the first row of words with me. Ready? S, o, cell. S, s, since. Ace. Ice. Sight. Pause the CD and time yourself.
The cold timing step is Rosa's first attempt to read all of the words in the exercise. She reads the words down each column and then changes direction and reads across each row, underlining any words she does not know. She sets the timer for 1 minute. When the timer sounds, Rosa makes a vertical line after the last word she read and counts the number of words read. Let's say she read all of the columns and then changed direction and read across the first 3 rows to the word face. To count the number of words read, we use the numbers to the left and above the words and keep counting. Since Rosa got to the word face reading across the rows, we would start from the number to the left, which is 40, and count over to the word face. So the total number of words read is 43. We subtract the number of words she underlined, which are errors, from the number of words read to calculate her cold timing score. Let's say Rosa made 4 errors. Her cold score would be 39 words correct per minute. She marks her cold score 39 in blue on her word warm-ups graph. Later, she will monitor her progress by comparing the baseline score to her hot timing score. Now Rosa reads along with the audio support to learn all of the words. This is the teacher modeling step. Listen to a portion of the read-along audio.
Now read the words down each column with me. Ready? Cell, celt, scent, sep, cyst, cyst, since, hence, fence, dance, lance, glance, ace.
The audio continues down the rest of the columns. Students are taught to read each word quietly aloud, along with the audio. Of course, English language learners benefit from listening to correct pronunciation as they read along with the audio. During the practice step, Rosa sets the timer for 1 minute and practices reading the words. She practices multiple times until she can reach the goal of reading down all the columns and then across all the rows in 1 minute. This is the repeated reading step. She records her score at the bottom of the page each time she completes a practice timing. You can see her score has improved from her cold timing score of 39 all the way to 61. Since she has reached her goal of 60, she is ready to move on to the next step. Rosa signals her teacher that she is ready for the hot timing step. This teacher provides a red-green pouch that can be turned to the red side when a student is ready for a hot timing. The teacher listens to the student read and determines if she passes the exercise. She must read all the words down and then across in 1 minute or less and make 3 or fewer errors to pass. If a student reads down every column and across every row just as the timer sounds, the student will have read 60 words. Often, a student still has time to begin down the columns again before the timer sounds. Let's say Rosa read down every column and across every row, which is 60 words, and then she started down the first column again, and she finished reading the bottom word cyst as the timer sounded. Her teacher counts from 60 down the first column to the bottom word cyst, so her total words read score would be 66. And let's say she made 2 errors, so her hot timing score would be 64 words correct per minute. Now the teacher has the option of conducting a short spelling lesson or a test using several of the words that Rosa has been decoding. The spelling test determines whether she can encode or spell these same words, and it reinforces the phonics or syllable patterns that have been taught in the lesson. Rosa marks her hot timing score in red on her word warm-ups graph. She uses the same bar that she used for the cold timing on the bar graph, so she can monitor her own progress. As you can see, the graph is now marked with her hot timing score in red, which shows her improvement from 39 words correct per minute in blue to 64 words correct per minute in red. Comparing the cold timing and the hot timing provides proof of progress, which motivates students to continue to practice and to improve. She has now completed all of the steps for this lesson exercise. Before I show you sample lesson exercises from level 2 and level 3, let's talk about multisyllabic words. By the middle grades, students need to know how to decode multisyllabic words because most of the words they encounter in print are words of 7 or more letters and 2 or more syllables. We know students can be taught to chunk multisyllabic words into spelling units that can be decoded. Once students have mastered basic phonics skills, they need 2 additional skills to successfully decode multisyllabic words: the ability to recognize and pronounce prefixes and suffixes in isolation, and the ability to quickly decode open and closed syllables. Think about this. 80% of all words have at least one prefix or suffix. Notice all of the prefixes and suffixes in these example words. If students know the prefixes and suffixes by sight, they are able to quickly recognize them as chunks within these multisyllabic words. There are a limited number of prefixes and suffixes. They occur frequently, and they're consistent across words, so it's well worth the time it takes to teach them. Look at this level 2 exercise at the bottom of page 10 in your handout. This lesson exercise focuses on building automaticity with the featured prefix dis. The student listens along with the audio recording to learn how to pronounce all of these words with the prefix dis. Then the student continues through all of the same steps we saw in the level 1 example. Notice that the goal is 50 words correct per minute in level 2 for these 2 and 3 syllable words. Here's a lesson exercise from level 3 on page 12 in your handout. Level 3 moves along more quickly. So the student builds automaticity with 5 common suffixes in this exercise. Each of the columns in the table features several words with a common suffix. First, the student listens along with the audio to learn how to pronounce the 5 suffixes in isolation. Listen as I play the audio.
Look at the suffixes at the top of this page. A suffix is a letter or group of letters added to the end of a root or root word. Listen to the suffixes as you read them with me. Ready? Ism, as in externalism. Us, as in generous. Ity, as in extremity. Ent, as in indifferent. Ant, as in repentant.
This strategy for learning to decode multisyllabic words is based on identifying prefixes and suffixes by sight as single chunks. So even if a suffix has more than one syllable, it is presented as a single chunk. For example, the suffix ity is pronounced ity. Next, the student practices pronouncing the suffixes on the flashcards at the top of the page to build automaticity. She adds a tally mark each time she practices. After the student does a cold timing, she reads along with the next part of the audio to learn the words in the table.
Look at the words in the table. Each word ends with a suffix. Now read the words down each column with me. First, read the word as it is divided. Then read it the way we really say it. Ready? Now, ism, externalism. Defeatism, defeatism. Ism, immoralism. Perfectionism, perfectionism.
In the full lesson, the audio continues and the student reads along down every column to learn all of the words. Notice that the words are intentionally separated into chunks for the purpose of learning how to pronounce them, rather than how the dictionary would separate them. And did you notice how the words are pronounced in this lesson? The prefix, the root word, and the suffix are pronounced phonetically, and then the whole word is pronounced the way we really say it. For example, a student can easily self-correct from a phonetic pronunciation, perplexity, to the way we really say it, perplexity. If the student is familiar with the word, because when she gets close to the correct pronunciation, she'll recognize the word. The student continues through the rest of the steps. Notice that the goal is 40 words correct per minute in level 3 for multisyllabic words. The ability to pronounce open and closed syllables in isolation is the other key skill for decoding multisyllabic words. Open and closed syllables make up almost 75% of the syllables in English words. So students who can automatically read open and closed syllables accurately are better able to read multisyllabic words. Each of these sample words contains at least one open or closed syllable. Students are taught that a vowel at the end of a syllable says its long sound. For example, lo and k in the word location, and he in the word adhesive. Students are taught that a vowel not at the end of a syllable says its short sound. For example, pan in the word expansionism. If a student has learned to recognize prefixes and suffixes, and if the student can accurately and quickly pronounce the open and closed syllables, then the student has the skills necessary to decode the words. Here's another lesson exercise from level 3 on page 12 of your handout. It focuses on building automaticity with open syllables that appear in the words in the table. First, the student listens along with the audio to learn how to pronounce the open syllables in isolation, and then practices reading them on the flashcards several times. And then she continues through the rest of the steps for this lesson exercise. Now that you have seen how students move from single syllable decoding to multisyllabic words in the 3 levels of word warm-ups, let's talk about placing students. Word warm-ups is highly effective because the individual placement process allows you to easily differentiate instruction. Each level of word warm-ups has a placement assessment. The list of skills back on page 4 in your handout will help you estimate which level assessment to administer. The placement results will help you determine an appropriate level for a student and which exercises to assign. Some students will need to complete all of the sections in a level. Some students will only need to complete some of the sections or specific exercises in a level. The assessments are also used as post-tests to provide data for monitoring student progress. You can download the assessments for all 3 levels from the Read Naturally website. These downloadable assessments include detailed directions for administering and scoring. The first page of Level 1 Assessment Scoring Worksheet is on page 13 in your handout. Notice students read nonsense words for the Level 1 assessment. For Level 2 and Level 3 assessments, students read real words. Let's practice using Section C. I'll be the student and you be the teacher. You'll use the section here to mark any errors that you hear. I will read a word. If I read the word correctly, mark it with a check mark. If I read a word incorrectly, write what I say phonetically in the space. If I read a word incorrectly and then immediately correct myself, mark it with SC for self-corrected. And if I read a word slowly, mark it with SD for slowly decoded. Here we go. First row, chef, wog, win, thad, chaz. Next row, duck, fink, Seth, rash. Now let's look at the errors. See if your score sheet agrees with the sample. There are 3 errors. I read wog for wong, duck for Dutch, and fink for finch. There are 2 self-corrected words, thad and rash. And there's 1 slowly decoded word, kung. If a student scores 3 or more on a section of the assessment, the student should do that section of word warm-ups. This student has a total score of 6, which means the teacher should assign this section. Let's look at some assessment results for 2 students. Jenny's teacher estimates she needs the skills taught in Word Warm-Ups 1 as an intervention, so he assesses Jenny with the Word Warm-Ups 1 assessment. The left column lists the sections of the assessment, and the right column indicates Jenny's total score for each section. Jenny knows all of the sounds of the consonants and vowels in Section A, but she has a total score of 3 or higher for sections B through J. In fact, they range from 4 to 7. Based on Jenny's assessment scores, her teacher decides she should start with the first section on which she scored 3 or higher, which is Section B, and she will complete all subsequent sections in Level 1. So her teacher will put together packets with the exercises for sections B through J. Tommy's teacher estimates the skills in Word Warm-Ups 2 would be good independent practice for him. So she assesses Tommy using the Word Warm-Ups 2 assessment. Tommy scored higher than 3 on a couple of sections and below 3 on others. Notice he has a total score of 5 on sections D and F. Based on Tommy's assessment scores, his teacher decides he should complete only selected sections of Word Warm-Ups 2. So she will put together packets for sections D and F, and he will complete just these 2 sections. Many of you are Read Naturally Live or Read Naturally Encore users. Let's take a minute to talk about how word warm-ups can be used as a phonics intervention alongside these programs. When you place a student in Read Naturally, you must choose the appropriate level and series for that student. Here's a series options table showing the sequence and phonics series. If a student's fluency placement level is fairly close to a phonics level that matches the student's phonics needs, the Phonics series may be a good placement option. For example, if a student's fluency placement is level 2.0 and reading assessments show that the student is weak in blends and digraphs, we would place the student in Phonics level 1.8, which features words with blends and digraphs. So the student will get the needed phonics support while working in an appropriate level to improve reading fluency. But if a student's fluency placement is at a much higher level, for example, level 4.0, and that student needs blends and digraphs, we would place the student in level 4.0 for fluency intervention and plan to provide phonics intervention separately. In this case, word warm-ups can be used to provide that targeted phonics intervention for 10 minutes each day to meet the student's phonics needs. By using a combination of word warm-ups as a 10-minute warm-up alongside Read Naturally Live or Encore, we are able to give a student targeted phonics practice without compromising the student's potential for growth in fluency. As you've seen, Word Warm-Ups is a program that has been carefully designed to help developing and struggling readers. These are links for many helpful resources on the Read Naturally website. You can download program samples, the student assessment for each level, and several blog articles with helpful tips and resources. Also, on the last page of your handout, you will find a bibliography for some of the research base discussed in the webinar. If you have questions or if you would like more information about word warm-ups, please contact us at Read Naturally.